In ancient India, one of my personal favorite stories of Shiva, the great god of this trinity of between Shiva, Vishnu, and Brahma. And some of you may have heard, in the more popular versions, there are these sort of three divine beings. Brahma is the creator god, from which all things arise. Vishnu is seen to be the one who preserves things to, over time, so he is seen to be the preserver. And Shiva is seen to be the one who destroys things so that Brahma can then come back and recreate, that there is this cycle. Um, and Shiva, as the destroyer, and there are many sort of local religions as well as very large religious sects in India who basically are Shiva worshippers, the Shaivites, and also in the Tantras, this notion of Shiva as an ascetic and a highly, highly sexualized deity who has this incredible passion and this fire that shoots out of his sixth chakra and scorches the earth around him. So the myth of Shiva, his passion is so great that this is how it comes out. It emanates from his sixth chakra as a fire and destroys everything. His consort is Parvati. She's sort of the female, the deity, the goddess, if you will, who is there to help Shiva tame his passions and teach him how to act in civilized society. Shiva just wants to go and join sort of the forest and become an ascetic. And he has this kind of wild character, this antinomian, kind of this anti-norm principle. And Parvati arises as the one who is there to say, you have a purpose in the world. And you can't just meditate all the time and then have your passions build up and then do all this, but you also have a duty largely. And so Parvati is this being who is really there to pacify him and bring him this wisdom of integration, if you will. Um, so it's interesting how you have these interesting interplays between nature, which is often seen to be feminine. Also in the Hindu traditions, Prakriti, this force of nature that is seen to be female, and Purusha, the great divine being of consciousness that has sort of more male characteristics. So these interesting interplays between these forces. Our cultivation in meditation sometimes will sort of flow and move and twist and turn between these energies, these qualities. If you've ever spent much time on the cushion, there may be moments where you feel this sort of heightened arousal in your nervous system, or this sense of calming and almost of humility at, at being in your practice in a greater whole. I mean, these are all different manifestations of male and female energies. It doesn't matter. You don't need to know which is which necessarily, unless you're doing very discrete practices. But um, in Buddhism, it's very interesting. So Tara has 21 forms. She is kind of this emanation of compassion, of Avalokiteshvara. He is kind of the being in Buddhism, the great bodhisattva of boundless compassion, who actually suffers when we suffer. He has this great, profound love for us, boundless love. And yes, he suffers when we suffer. And green and white Tara, who are the most sort of popular forms of Tara, arise out of the tears that he sheds for us when we suffer. So green Tara, we've talked about before. Green Tara is is the protector, the one who is there to kind of mercifully hold us when we are not doing well, when we are suffering, and offers us refuge. White Tara, on the other hand, she is perhaps less active in a way, but she represents this aspiration for well-being, for longevity, as well as for spiritual guidance, for spiritual wisdom, and also holds us in a different way than Green Tara does. She holds us with this profound sort of knowing wisdom, the wisdom of all things as they are. Ultimately, she is white because white represents non-duality. In in Tibetan Buddhism. White it represents non-duality, and she's there to kind of teach us how to move beyond these polarities of back and forth, sorrow, pleasure, good, bad, preferable, objectionable, attachment, aversion, right, wrong, and on and on and on. The middle path. White Tara is there to kind of show us what's beyond all of this. So when we practice with deity such as this, and in Tibetan Buddhism, it's thought that when we do a deity practice, it doesn't matter who it is. It could be Samantabhadra, could be Medicine Buddha, could be Manjushri. Largely all deities are present within each deity. So if we practice with White Tara, we are also encountering the great Bodhisattva of compassion, Avalokiteshvara. We are also encountering the wisdom of Manjushri. We are also encountering the healing aspect of Medicine Buddha, and so on and so forth. So in some ways, it doesn't matter how she appears. It doesn't matter necessarily if she looks like White Tara, or if we're meditating on a different being, or if we're just meditating on an energy of some kind. So if we don't relate to these forms, that's okay too. What does it mean to be enfolded in this loving, healing, wise presence of energy? And ultimately, is it possible we can embody that too? Because this is where it's all taking us, is to show us those aspects of who we are that are already embodying these qualities. So we already embody White Tara. Everyone. We just don't know it. And some people are actually downplay those qualities um, out of fear of compassion or fear of being weak or what have you. Ignorance largely, total ignorance. So, so in a way, these representations are there as examples, as symbols, and for some, they are also very real emanations of qualities that are not just within us, but also around us in the world. So whether we're meditating in a cave in Pemako or we're sitting in our living room, these qualities are never as far away as they may feel. And how we meditate, with a being like White Tara, we can practice this later in a moment, is first by visualizing this being sitting right in front of us here. And we may know what she looks like, we may not, that's fine. We can just sort of activate this knowing that there is this presence of this divine feminine principle being who is there, and her heart is just radiating these rays of deep love, and those rays permeate our heart. We receive them. We receive these qualities of healing, of brightness, um, of well-being, and of wisdom, the wisdom to see clearly. And then when we sort of can feel those rays permeating us and filling the heart, we may start feeling as if our own heart is producing these qualities, and it actually is. Yeah. So we're almost bypassing, when we do visualization practices, we're actually bypassing the discursive mind, that's the rational mind that is saying, ah, come on, this isn't real. What are we really doing here? The analytical mind that is always behind. It is always behind, trying to catch up to what we're doing when we practice. So don't worry about that part of you. All good. But it's okay to be out front. It's okay to be on the front lines of this beauty and of this practice. It's where amazing things are possible. Beyond the sorrow, beyond the loneliness, beyond whatever it is that we're dealing with. It's never as far away as it feels. That's the thing. So ultimately, the non-duality that White Tara represents for us, we may actually feel as we practice that what may have started out feeling like a female energy all of a sudden has no gender, that it actually is much more spacious, that it actually moves beyond those designations. And this is also very, very normal and actually expected when we practice. It doesn't have to be this way, but we may get up off of our cushion and see the world as this radiant a manifestation of the divine feminine. What a beautiful thing. Man, do we need more of that in the world. Right, guys? So, yeah.